Episode 4, Dar.
Yes. Oh, that's gone quick.
It has. And my life now is really starting to blossom. Lots going on. So we're going to cover 82 right through to 89.
Yep.
So there was a lot of things happening at work, family as well, houses, sheds, and of course, rock solid.
Yeah, there's a few cars. Yeah.
So there was a bit going on, and our drive cars. So I'm not going to mess around too much. We've got a lot to do. And for those watching for the first time, it is the 4th episode. So you can find the others. They're all linked together.
Yep.
And when we finished last time, we built the new house. And the first slide we've got is the backyard now. So this would be another 12 or 18 months on. So I've been busy, done the paving, got the lawn starting to go and the trees in. And I've got to push the right button. So I've got it now.
We're all good.
We're all good. I've got my bearings.
Yep.
So the young fella, mate, he's starting to grow a little bit now.
Young Lee, yes.
So we're out in the heat of the day. So Broken Hill's always warm. So nice to get the hose out after work and water the lawns and the trees. Yep. And at the same time, the van's gone. We're driving the 4-door now, so there's an opportunity to bring in the new project. So your car that you see there is the base of what we used. And there was quite a lot of parts and a lot of cars that went into the initial build. But that was the $100 special, and it was rolled into the shed that's part of the house, and it was in feet terms 22 by 15.
It was squeezy.
Not quite a single garage, but not much bigger than a single garage.
No.
So it was the drive car was outside, or under a bit of an awning out the front, but it was built there, and we're going to come back to the car and through the family and all the things that are going on. So
there's lots of things going on, Howard. It's not just building cars and that's all Howard does.
No, there's when I went through this, I'm sort of thinking, this is ridiculous. I don't know how this happened. So that photo there was Lee's christening.
Yep.
And then the next one is Lee's first trip up the bush. And I'd say that's Uncle Fuzz on the right there by the look of it. So Fuzzy's a bit of was from Menindee originally, a bit of a bushy, and of course Dad liked going up the bush, so that day we headed up, and then the first of the swimming lessons, so in the hilltop pool, mate. Yeah, so you've obviously seen my grandson now, and there's a spitting image going on there, I think. Yeah, it's carbon copy. It is, mate.
It is.
So these things are all happening, and of course the car's underway now. So at this point in time, I don't know if you notice there under the lower sill, there's a block of wood. So remembering now that, Street Machine was, I think, quarterly.
Yes.
And not a lot of information, and we're trying to work out, and I know I've got to do underneath. And if I remember correctly, we rolled it up on a couple of tyres and it wasn't real stable. So I got a couple of blocks of wood there, and I do recall repairing those dents from the blocks.
Yeah.
But you'll see as we get further in that we improved a bit from there. And then this next shot here is... I've been working panel by panel, and I'd always sort of read and believed, if your car's straight in black, then it'll look really good. So
hard to get them straight in black.
My thought was squirt a bit of black on it and use that as the blocking type scenario. So I mean, I'm learning as I'm going. I've got no idea what I'm doing.
Well, there's no internet, and it's all experience.
Exactly.
So
talk to your mate.
Have a chat. This is how I did it, and try that, and that didn't work. I'll try something else.
So you can see the car next door there. The Fairlane, I think you'll find that might be our driver. So we did a little trip to Adelaide and had a few problems with the GXL, so we moved that on, and you'll see a photo of that in a minute. So that's pretty much, we used to push the car out and to get a bit of room inside to work on whatever we were working on, and then push it back in when you were done.
Well, you couldn't open all the doors and work it in the garage.
No, it wasn't enough room.
It wasn't wide enough. Exactly.
So the pretty picture there of the tunnel ram and all that was... I had a trip to Melbourne for some reason, probably for work, and went to one of the speed shops and brought home some goodies. So a couple of 450s there.
More bling.
And the Ram.
More bling, yeah.
And a Gilmore Drive and a bit of Earls probably back in the day. So there's the Fairlane. So we rolled in with the GXL with, I think, a head gasket gone, and chuffed in and pulled up, and then got a trade-in price, and Heather was breastfeeding in the front seat, and the guy came in to have a look and went, oh, sorry, and then had a quick look at the car and give me a price. So we did the deal and drove out in the fair lane and left the other one behind.
But I noticed you swapped the wheels, Howard.
Kept the wheels.
They're the van wheels.
They're the van wheels, mate. Yeah.
So you obviously wasn't looking very long. We swapped the wheels over.
Yep. Swapped them wheels over and we're out of here. So, yeah, so that was a 302. That was not a bad car for a bit of a time. So the next one, we're going to see quite a few black and whites from the local paper. Mm-hmm. So I was sort of getting my head in the paper a bit.
Yep.
And the reason for that was I'd started getting involved into some community organisations. So we're in the motel game. Yep. We've got a couple of motels as a family. And I'm working in that environment now. And Dad's slowly working me up through, a bit like the Ford dealer we spoke about earlier. So we had a really good bookkeeper that was an accountant, and I used to work with Colin Plunkett one day a week learning how to do the books. Yep. Because back then it was all handwritten in the ledger.
In the ledger, correct.
Yeah, yep. So I was doing that one day a week. I was doing the lawns and gardens another day, and then painting something or knocking something down or doing whatever. So the old man suggested that I should be getting involved with some of these community organisations. So you can see there, Broken Hill Centenary was in '83, so I was part of that community organisation, and you can see the young tall fella there, that's me. Yep. And then this one here is another one of another organisation, which was the New South Wales State Government tourism body. Yep. So they had a local tourism officer for the area, and then he had a committee, and I was on that committee as well. So I think I ended up on about 6 different committees over the next few years, you'll see here in a minute. So always hanging out with all the oldies, mate. But
you're bringing the average age down, weren't you?
That was the go. And then the Flag Inn one's there. So both our properties were in the Flag Inns group. Yep. So I don't. You're probably not. You're old enough to remember
I'm old
the
enough
Flag
to remember
Inns,
them. Yep.
Because Flag became Choice Hotels.
Yep.
Yeah. So when we bought the Silver Haven, we joined that into Flag, and then their structure was a cooperative, and we'd have a meeting every year. And we were part of South Australia because of our location, even though we're in New South Wales. And for every property, there was an associate director or a zone director. Yep. So I ended up being one of those, representing quite a lot of South Australia, because I think we had 50 properties in South Australia at the time. So once again, very young, but because that had put me in an environment where I was able to have the time. Yep. And that meant heading off to Melbourne 4 times a year to an associate directors meeting, which helped the board of directors make the decisions on behalf of the cooperative. Yep. So once again, the young bloke would be off and doing a few meetings and getting involved in that. So that's 83. So time's sort of beckoning, and so's the car, mate. So it's up on its side still. You see the MiG in the middle there? That's the one we're still using.
That looks rather familiar, yes.
I always say it's pretty old, so there it is, 83, and it's in there. So that was the one I learnt on, and the one I'm still using. So got it up on the blocks and getting into the engine bay, and a bit of a dummy fit up there of all the new bits and pieces that I picked up.
Well, that's what you got to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Got to make sure it fits.
For sure. So working away at it, and at the same time, the young fella's grown up. So Lee's probably a couple of years old by looking there. Yep. And of course, Uncle Father's never far away.
No.
So Fuzzy ended up building a couple of blocks around the corner from us.
Yes.
And him and I did a lot of help both ways. You know, when we're building, or if you pour on concrete, you put on the phone and said, you know,
all
this weekend, mate, she's on.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's a young fella on, what we used to call it, Guy Fawkes night.
Yeah, cracker night.
Which we don't have anymore, cracker night, no. So, kids are growing, cars trying to get built, and then the motel, the Silver Haven, we've been working away, making it a bit better. And I said to Dad about making the restaurant a bit more enticing. Yep. And there was a bit of an opening at that time, I thought, in the town for a bit better restaurant. So that's sort of the before photo, and it used to be the steak and ale, and we had like an open grill for steaks and those sorts of things. So we renamed it the Haven Restaurant and organised the liquor licence and went down the track of making it a bit flasher. So that was the before shot. So, you know, the bottle of wine and the lace cloths and all the bits and pieces. And see the walls, they got like what they call fibre charm. So I did all that when I was a young fella. And the first couple of years I was there.
Is there?
No, I've done a bit. And then that's after the reno. So we ripped all the windows out, put the new windows in, new light fittings, got the licence, the bar.
Market.
Yeah, and that went really, really well. And I mean, I'm talking, it's a 50 seat, and we used to average nearly 40 a night every night of the year
Yep.
unbelievable, really. It went
Yep.
really, really well. And you can see there the progression from the old koala to then
Yep.
the next one, and then the new signs and the new restaurant. So we had managers in both properties, live-in managers, and then they were effectively by this stage now under my guidance, if you like. So, Dad's at the top,
Yep.
then me. So if they got a problem, they come to me, and if I can't sort it out, I go to Dad.
Yep.
And then I'm working on the business instead of in the business, I guess, and working on in all those community organisations. So all that's happening. So then I get a bright idea with a couple of other guys in a motel. We probably should get our heads together and make a motels association so that we can raise some money to get more tourists, so we can get more bums in beds and
Yep.
make
Yep.
a few more bucks. So you know what happens when you have a bright idea?
Yeah, you're the one driving the bus.
You get
Yeah.
a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Head man.
a new committee, and I ended up being the head of that for quite some years, and
Yep.
we raised a lot of money and supported our local tourist association, and were able to do our own brochures and try and drive more business into the town, which was because the mining was declining. We needed something else
you
to
got
make sure it was happening.
Need
So
to diversify, as they say.
that really well, and there's one of those checks going over.
It's one of those young blokes.
One of them young blokes, yeah. So, had a lot of time with those guys. And then the next photo, it's one to do with the film industry. And I've put that almost in as a reminder, but a lot of people may not know that we all know about Mad Max.
Yeah.
And I think I've told you the story, I don't know if I mentioned in the earlier episodes, but when we first got the motel, it was pretty tired and didn't have a lot of business. And when Mad Max came to town, we actually were able to rent them the 31 rooms for 3 months. So we had the production office,
Yep.
and none of the stars, so Gibson and all were up the road,
Yep.
but the actual crew, the majority of the crew stayed at the Silver Haven. But we used to then, after Mad Max, go out looking for additional business. So Silverton, that's just out of town, is a big tourist venue now that came from the film industry. So town like Alice, Hostage, Razorback,
Yep.
all those old films were all made out
Yeah.
there.
Yep.
And I see they're going back to make the next Mad Max this year. So it's still going strong.
Yep.
And I'm comfortable to say that I was part of that, and I actually went on a couple of trips where we went to the film industry, like their annual get-together,
Yep.
and had a stand there promoting Broken Hill as a venue, and to be able to stand there and talk to them about what we can offer with accommodation and all those sorts of things.
Yep.
So had a bit to do with that.
Yep.
And then the other thing that came with the being in Flag, and especially as an associate director now, is that they had a very big conference every year. And that sort of became our holiday. So Heather and myself, that'd be our break to get away. It was a 5-day working conference, and I
Yep.
mean we did work hard, but we also had a bit of a play at night
Yep.
as well.
Bit
So
of a
we had a
social
pretty good
evening.
time.
Yes. Yes.
So, and that was all over the place. So the photo I've got there is actually Mum and Dad and myself and Heather, and I think that was either the second or third year we went, and we were fortunate that one was in Singapore.
Yep.
So that was the first time we'd sort of got outside of Australia. And of course you've got to have a parafly if you're in Penang
Yes.
on the way.
Howard the Daredevil.
They're the
Yep.
Daredevil. So
You just wanted to get those shorts out again, Howard.
yeah, they
That's
had to
what it
get
was.
the big boat though, mate, to get me off the ground. They had to get me off the ground.
Yes.
But I wasn't that big when you look at that one.
No.
Yeah, so that was us doing a bit of touristy stuff.
Yep.
And then, so that was every year. And then you'll see I've got photos in there because that became a big part of us, and we met a lot of very good people and nice people that we mixed with from all over Australia.
Yep.
And learnt a lot and from people that have been in the industry a long time.
Yep.
And took that knowledge and hopefully passed it on to other people. And as an associate director, I was involved in a lot of the committees when we were there for that week. So it was always a busy time.
I don't know how you had time to build cars.
ADHD, mate.
There's
I mean,
too
the
much other
first
stuff
build
going on.
was this particular stage was a 4-year build, so there was a little bit of room, but there was always a massive amount going on.
Well, that's because you didn't have any room to work on it, so you couldn't do much of it.
No, well, that's true.
Could you?
That's true.
So-
And we were still young and having a good time, and
Yep.
we've all got plenty of energy when you're that age, mate, in your 20s.
Yes.
So the next thing that comes along then is the Chamber of Commerce. Now you talk about elderly gentlemen sitting around a table, and the odd lady, but mainly gentlemen. in Broken Hill, the Chamber of Commerce negotiated the town agreement with the union for the conditions. And I'm not going to get too deep into that this time, but it meant that whatever the Chamber negotiated, that's what you got stuck with in your business. So once again, Dad said, you better go and get your head in there and see what's going on. So at this time, I'm probably spending 25% of my working day working for the community, because that benefit us because we had a lot of staff. So I can't read the date from
You're
Dale,
only
but
26 or 27.
what's
or
the date
something
there?
this time?
83 or something. So yeah, I'm 26, and I've got myself a spot as a
Still
board member on the
damp
chamber.
behind the ears in some people's eyes.
I did a lot of sitting and listening, and it was something very new to me. And the industrial relations was something that I was very interested in. Besides the fact that it helps your business, I was interested in the process.
Yeah.
And you'll hear more about that probably in the next couple of episodes. But so yeah, I got involved in that, and then while this was all going on, Dad's not getting any younger. It's a family-based business, and we were looking that we'd probably need to start at some stage, moving on, from a family, and I'm getting a bit older and nearly 30, moving on. So you'll see there we actually put the Silverhaven up for sale in 85, but it took till 89 to sell it. Yeah. And that's not unusual in a place like Broken Hill.
No, it doesn't happen overnight.
So while that's all happening, we thought, well, I said to Dad, we better give the Hilltop a bit of a facelift. So he started building that in 72, and was looking a bit tired as far as I was concerned, and our occupancy was dropping off a bit. So I put together a artist impression that I drew up myself with the old slide rule, and what I thought we could do with it to give it a bit nicer look.
Modernise it
a bit. And got the nod. Dad did a few numbers and worked out what we thought we'd need to spend, and we took on a full facelift outside, but we also did all the rooms as well. And
you
there I
said,
am.
Howard, you can go and do that now. That's good.
Yep, you got the approval. Get on with it. So you can see Dad's ute there, the XC with the car trailer. And then that's me dragging, we knocked that brick wall down onto the lawn and dragging that off. And that's probably a year or two later because the trees have grown a bit, but you get the general idea of where we're going. So we've sort of trying to get that more current look and feel about it. And then the pool area got the same sort of deal. So put those fences all the way around the pool and opened the area up and made it a bit nicer. And it worked really well. Occupancy went up and life was good. And that one there was just a thing we had in the paper to let everyone know what was going on. So I was never shy to get the paper.
You've got to promote your business,
your
town, your business, whatever's going on.
So that went pretty well, and back into tourism.
Still a young fella.
Yeah, still a young fella. So yeah, we're hosting a few people from Mildura. So we used to be trying to work. I actually went to Whyalla at one stage and spoke to them before they had an association, because Broken Hill Council were very good that they developed the Tourist Association very early on. And when I got involved, it was operating, and we had a tourist centre with a bus depot and all that, because they knew the mining industry was going on.
Yeah, and you had to be being as isolated as you were. I mean, you're not just half an hour down the road. So we were very proactive in what we did there, and as a town. And then obviously I got involved in that, and one of my big fortes in that area, I guess, was trying to get more membership for the association to convince other businesses that they should be contributing to tourism, because it goes right down through all the businesses. So that was a big part of what I was up to. So we're trying to get out of the motel, and I said, oh man, I've done one motel, we've done the other one, maybe we better find something to do, or I might start spending money on something we don't need to do because I'm getting a bit bored. So I don't quite know how it come about, but we ended up buying a taxi business. You obviously had too much time in your hands. Exactly. So the cabs there and sitting in front of the tourist centre, I set them up there one day, and that's indoored a bit, because when we got the place, it was all Holdens, mate, the whole place. There's nothing wrong with a good Holden.
So there was about 6 HZs, there was 13 cars all up, and quite a lot of the Commodores, VCs, I think. Is that a VC with the steel bumper?
Looks like a VC, yep.
So I eventually got rid of all of them, and we ended up with all Fords, of course.
I tried, but
good or bad, I don't know, but we had a lot of Fords. So we ran those for quite some time.
There was more room in the Falcon.
I don't have a lot of photos because there's not a lot to show, but yeah, we ran that business. So once again, I had a setup whereby that's the back entrance that went into the workshop. So, had a full-time mechanic and a full-time car cleaner, and then the base operators. And we had 35 drivers on roster. And that was my office in the back there.
Yep.
And I had an assistant that done the bookwork for the taxis, and she was the front line. If you wanted to get to me, you had to go through her. See? So I had the second room there.
Yep.
And I ran all of those things from there, and I'd have weekly meetings with the managers in each property. And I was at the taxis, so if anything went wrong there, I could sort that out.
Yep.
And then we were pretty much in the middle of town, and I could go to all my meetings and all that sort of stuff out of there. So pretty busy time. So being a taxi company, we had 3 hire cars. So being New South Wales or a HV.
Yep.
So that was one of the HVs that I bought a new Fairlane, a 6-cylinder Fairlane, and put some springs in it and a set of wheels, and that was our drive car. And if we needed a wedding car, it was a wedding car. So that worked pretty good.
Yep.
So that replaced the old 302. So we got rid of that, and then this became my first work car, I guess. So so that was a good car, that one. So part of the whole process of being on all these committees when you're young, often representing the town, going away, it was sort of like I had 2 hats. So it was like get the t-shirt on, work on the car, and then get the tie on and go away and do the things. And the picture there, we're all dolled up, and Heather's looking very flash there with the fur over the arm and all. We were representing the Chamber of Commerce at the Civic ball.
That's a big deal.
It was. And it was a bit frightening, really, because what happened is everyone's seated, and the official party's upstairs, having the hors d'oeuvres and stuff. Then we come down, and they open the door up, and it's like, and representing the Broken Hill Chamber of Commerce is Heather and Howard Astill. And then you walk out under the spotlight and go, holy hell, what's going on here?
He's too young.
Yeah, he must be filling in. So that was sort of going on. And I mean, my life was changing from a business perspective, but at the same time, I'm trying to get out in the shed every night and get a bit done on the cars, and still having a few parties and all the rest of it. But yeah, there was a lot going on from a business perspective that most people aren't doing until they're in their 40s.
No.
And speak of the devil, there we are, we're out in the shed. So the car build, I don't have a lot of photos of the early build of the first version of Rock Solid, this one. But that photo there was fire up night. So that's out under the awning at the front of the house. So the neighbours are straight across the road. And there's obviously me and young Lee there, and then Barney Clifford at the back. The guy on the right, you can't quite see his head, that's Bob Sherry from Adelaide. He was up doing some work on my brother's boat, and he was a drag racer out of South Australia. And he's the guy that made the shifter.
Right, yes.
Right, so he made that out of basically flat sheet, and he had one in his car, and he used to sell the old one, and I seen it, well, my brother seen it, told me about it, so that's how I ended up with that shifter in the car. So Bob was there, so he was giving us a bit of a hand to sort things out. And then my brother straight in the front, of course Fuzzy's there, and Louie's just out of the shot there. So, and that particular photo, that's my brother on the right, and Bob Sherry's leaning up against the post there, sitting on the ground, and then all the cars in line there. I can't remember who had the red one, but the one behind that's Hoops' car, and then Darty the painter. And this was like the maiden voyage, a couple of timber planks, getting ready to go in the new trailer to head off to the Nats. So that's the trailer. So another Hooper trailer.
As you do.
So our mate Kim. So
he's a specialist.
I bought I don't think it was burnt out, but it was a very tight caravan, and it had a really heavy chassis, like a 7 or 8 inch frame through it. Didn't pay a lot of money for it, and pulled the whole van off it, and then we made a base up inch tube frame, and then I bought the cladding on it was caravan cladding, aluminium, trying to keep the weight down. And it was a good trailer for the first effort, and we built quite a few after that, but that was the first go. And the only mistake I made is that nice new Fairlane I had. I thought that should be able to drag that around.
Yeah, well, it's new.
I'm a young bloke. So I don't know what it all would have weighed, but it would have been a lot. So we've hung it off the back of that Fairlane and dragged it to Canberra, and it wasn't a good idea.
Well, it's all right on the flat.
And I mean, living out there, you don't quite appreciate when you get across and you get past sort of Wagga, I guess, and you turn left onto the Hume there, and then the big hills. So we're locked in first, and I've got Fuzzy's in the front, and he's got the book out trying to find out where the max torque is. in this new car so we could get over the hills. So we were just using whatever gear put us in that torque range so we could actually get there. So yeah, didn't do the old fair. It fit 6 on much good, but we got there. But when we did get there,
it was a small incident.
We run into a bit of a problem. So I don't know what morning, I think it was the first or the second morning, we were at a motel, gone in early, and the workers are cleaning up, and a little ute zipped around a parked car and thought he'd get through, and the corner of his tray caught the front of the fair lane and ripped it clean off.
And this is a new car back
They're
then
6 months old, I reckon.
Yeah.
So while I'm getting the rock solid organised, Louis and Fuzzy are giving it a bit of help on the pole.
We'll pull the dint out. And
what had happened, the reason we're pulling it is the fan had caught the radiator but not hold it. So the viscous fans jammed in the cords and all on the back.
Yep.
So anyhow, the boys fixed it up, got there with a hammer and straightened her out and put a beer box over it.
As you do.
Cover
up the hole.
Taped it up, yeah. So this is us getting organised, and then the show and shine. So all the cars, there was no elite cars in, everyone was in the same pack.
Yep.
So all the cars were around the trotting track. And if you can imagine all the people scuffing around and all the dust was unbelievable. So that's Heather sitting on the fence by the look of it.
Yep.
And then there's the crew. So Hoops with his young bloke, and then Fuzzy and Louie. And then we get the word that we've made the haul. And I got a feeling back then it was the top 70, but for some reason. But what we know is top 60
But you didn't get a lot of notice, did you?
Well, we didn't know anything about it.
That's not much notice.
So someone come up and said, you got to be in the hall. And I go, what? And they go, well, you've made the finalists, so you've got to sort of clean your car up and get in there. So the thing's putrid. It's been out on the oval all day. So we've whipped down the stables, pulled the fire hose out, hit it up, and then all hands on deck to try and clean it up and get it ready. Yep. So we did that, and then there's a couple of shots. There's that shifter.
Yep.
And these are just a few sort of finish shots, engine bay, and then waiting for presentations. All his effort. Yep. How did we go?
We're excited. We're in the hall. A big sigh.
Didn't go very well.
Not as well as
nice car, but didn't work.
Didn't tick the boxes required.
The thing was, though, we got in the hall. So I mean, for a lot of people that I work
big
with
achievement.
now, that's what they're after. So the mistake I made, if I made a mistake, was I went away for 4 years and come back with a car, and things had moved on.
Yeah.
So what we were doing wasn't what everyone else was doing, and a lot of people say that now. The car was innovative. It may have been innovative, but it wasn't what the judges wanted at the time.
Yeah.
So that's the way it was, and we got home.
You don't build cars without taking that into consideration anymore.
And I mean, when I built that car, it was really what I thought I wanted based on what I was reading in the American magazine, Carcraft, Hot Rodding, Hot Rod, all those sort of magazines. And I also wanted it registered.
Yes.
So that put some limitations on, certain things. Yep. So that's sort of where we got to with the car. And then I turned 30. So I'm all grown up now. So that's me and Dad and the young fella having some lunch. May's my birthday, and we got the hot soup by the look of it. Must have been a bit cold. And then we had a bit of a party down at the Haven. And I threw this in because that's from that party, and these were the mainstays. These are the guys that enabled me to do what I've been doing and had done back then, and I'm still close and talk to most of them, not all the time. I mean, I don't see Gary or Louis very often, but when we do, it's like nothing like tomorrow. It's always the same thing. And of course, I catch up with Fuzz every year at the Nats, or went out to his 60th the other day, which was the buzz. So so everyone's heard their names. So the bottom left's Gary Dart, and that's Hoops, Kim Hooper, and all their partners. And then back to work.
Back with the old blokes.
Back with the old blokes. So we headed off to Sydney, I believe, when I had a read of that. So 87, and we've gone over to Sydney to the launch of the new Outback Discover New South Wales. And the guy on the right there, Fritz Angst, he was one of our managers at the Motel, and he was one of the ones that probably got me a lot into the whole tourism thing. He was a real stickler for it. And we went off to represent the Outback region, which was obviously Broken Hill, and we raised something like $35,000 to be able to buy our share in that particular publication to then be able to distribute it out through the centre and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was a big job and a bit of a pat on the back for us all when we got a little trip over there. And then we wouldn't have been home long and we had to go to another conference. So it's July again, mate.
You need more hours in the day, Howard. There's not enough hours.
It's pretty full on. So Heather and I are there, so that would have been the gala night by the look of it. And by memory, it was a bit of an early finish.
Mm.
You know, probably.
Well, they're mostly old people, Howard. They don't like to stay.
No, there was a few youngies there.
Any stir.
So the photo I got up there now, the foreshot there, it's obviously Heather and I at the function, and then it was actually Heather's birthday that day.
Okay.
And it used to coincide a bit with because she's in July, and it was normally in July, the conference. Yep. So we've headed back to I said, look, come back to the room. It's Heather's birthday. We'll have a few drinks in the room. So we've gone back, and we had a guy with us, one of the reps, and because they're all there trying to sell us, toilet paper or coffee or whatever.
Yeah.
So one of those guys has come back, and we go in the room, and hit the minibar sort of thing. And when we go back, everyone goes back to the room and gets the minibar and brings it around.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is at the Hilton.
We're at the Hilton in Perth.
So not exactly the cheapest place around to be hitting the minibar or ordering.
So this guy hops on the phone, all right, and starts ordering.
Yep.
And Heather's looking at me, and I'm looking at her. We're not real old, and we don't have a lot of money. And he's going, oh well, we need this for 10 people, and a couple of bottles of this, and a couple of bottles of that. And I'm going, oh Jesus Christ! And fortunately, he goes and charge it to room 649, which wasn't our room.
No, you were 518.
So that was good.
That was really good.
So we had a ball, as you can see. So we had a lot of fun at those shows. Yeah, really good. And then back home again.
And we've learned our lesson. We have with the tow vehicle.
Yep. So I had the eye out looking around local, something that can tow this trailer with all the gear on it. And what was starting to happen was we're carrying more gear. So we need mirror tiles, and we need this, and we need that, and it all weighs, lots. So I bought that F100, and when I bought it, it was white with the blue stripe down the side. And the local publican, can't remember his first name, Cappy. And everyone used to say, oh, you got Cappy's truck. I go, no, I've got my truck.
Yeah.
And they go, no, it's Cappy's old truck. And I go, yeah, it is Cappy's old truck, but it's mine now.
It was, yeah.
So I've got rid of the stripe, and we give it a bit of a tidy up. And it was a 302 manual. And as it progressed down the track later in its life, it ended up with a 460 Cobra Jet with an auto. But I'll tell that story when it breaks down next time.
Yeah.
A
few stories with that.
This was Riverland cruise, so down at Berry.
Ramps.
Got some ramps now. We've moved up from the timber, and we did pretty well there. So the guy there on the left's Tony Baum, B-O-A-M, I think. It's the I don't know what the pronunciation is. And those that have been around a long time, he had an orange Trans Am with a couple of Predators hanging up through the bonnet.
Big square carbies.
That's it. Yeah, and pretty well known. And he was, we used to have a ball. Used to get into a bit of trouble.
You can tell he's mischief. He's got sunglasses.
Because on at night.
Nighttime,
that was a good show. Yeah. And that photo there, I've put it in, the guy in the middle there, the guy with the big shoulders, Sean Summers, he gave me a hand in the early days, and unfortunately he's not with us anymore, but poor old Sean, but and young Lee with him there, so it looks like he's on babysitting duties. Back home.
More tourism.
So as you can see, there's a bit of a theme going on here. Yeah, so very heavily involved.
There's a lot of work.
And a bit of play. So now we've headed off on a camping trip with the cars.
Just happened to be a car event.
So that's Louis, and that's the first. That's the cameo for his Tirana. So he had a nice hatchback, 253 manual, in Persian sand, and he had a nice little Simmons.
Okay.
Like the multi-spoke Simmons in gold on that. So that was our campsite there. So all the van stuff's still handy, mate. So we've got the cooking stove and all the bits and pieces we had back then. And I think a caravan park or something we were parked up at. And that was our first time we'd been down. So this was the Victorian State title. So it's the opposite year to the national.
So this is biannual, so every second year.
Every second year. Yep. So the Australian Street Machine Federation used to run the nationals.
Yep.
So Fuzzy and I went over in '82 to Canberra for the Nationals, and then we took the car to the 7th Street Machine Nationals in '86 when we got in the pavilion.
Yep.
And at this point in time, we still don't have a Summer Nats.
No.
So
that's right.
It came later. So all these shows were Easter.
Yep.
So the Nationals were every second year. So the Victorian branch used to run the Victorian state title on the opposite year. So that way each Easter you had somewhere to go.
Yeah. Because you decided to do after the 7th Nationals.
Yep.
We didn't quite win. Oh, maybe I need to give it a bit of a...
We was tinkering around, and we went to this show. So this is the following year,
right? Yeah, that's right.
So we've still sort of got a year and a bit out of it.
Yep.
And then I started doing the driving event. So I was originally just sort of heading down the judge category side of things. So I've started to do a bit of driving as well in the driving events. And this particular show we won judged. I think when we went back in 2 years. So there's got that little trophy here somewhere, I think. So that's our first title, so to speak. Okay. So we're talking trophy hunter.
Yep.
So top street machine overall. Oh no, I've won the lot. So I hit the microphone. So 87. So overall was the old terminology for grand champion.
Grand champion.
Yeah. So judged and driving.
Yep.
So that was the first title as such, the Victorian state title in '87, and then was getting a few little things going wrong in the engine bay paint wise, so I decided to take the top off the engine, fix those bits up, and start boxing a few things in, trying to make it a little bit better here and there.
While I'm here,
may as well do that.
While I've got the engine out.
Yeah, may as well do that. So obviously I took the top of it and then ended up taking the whole thing out.
Yep.
And then that's back at my joint and give it a coat of paint by the look of it in the little shed. And then back over to my brother's because I didn't have anywhere to pull the motor in and out. So back out because he's the boat guy with all the gear. So back over there and got all that finished up, probably to go to the hot rod show, I would think. But in the meantime, we're back tourism again because that's our focus. That's what we do for a living.
That's your day to day, isn't it?
And as you can see, Heather there's got the little bump happening. So the second child's on the way.
Another Astill.
Another one of the clan. So she's carrying the baby there. So we're back at the conference, and I've got the new Outback jumper on, promoting Broken Hill and the Outback region at the conference. And that day there, we were at Sovereign Hill. Okay. And we were in the CBD, and we got on a train, like a tourist train, and there's about 400 of us. We've all gone out there and taken the joint over, so it was a good day out.
It was probably catered and,
Oh, it was awesome. It was
free drinks.
Free drinks, yeah.
Yeah,
paid for in the sense. So that's us out on and then of course the gala night every year. So
frock up.
And it used to, they had awards and all that, it was a pretty big time. It was pretty good. So we're all flashed up there, so that was in Melbourne. And some of those people from South Australia, some from Melbourne, a couple of traders, good night out. And then, voila, we've got a baby.
And then there's another Astill.
Amazing. So, nice little family shot there.
Yep.
With young Lee's getting bigger now, so he's 5, or 4 and a bit, I think, 5. And then my mum and young Louise, Lee looking a bit chuffed there. And then time to go home, and of course we're in a white car now because we're into the Fairlanes now. So
a bit more prestigious
family
come home car.
And then christenings.
Yep.
I shot out the front of the cathedral, and then we need a bigger shed. So as you mentioned, we probably need to tidy the rock solid up a bit more. So we embarked down the rock solid 2 scenario. And I think if I ever did that again, I would never repaint something the same colour. Because most people thought the paint was all right the first time. So you paint it the same colour and everyone goes, oh, what did you do? And you go, rebuilt the whole car. And they go, oh, did you?
It's all the same
so
colour.
It looks the same. So that's why the third time it went blue.
Yes.
So as the Astills do, mate, we need a shed, so we better build one. So you can see the young bloke getting a few lessons there. So this has got the frame up, pulled all the neighbours' fences down by the look of it, and then got it all formed up, and then we're now pouring concrete. So
And the old boy's in there supervising, I know.
Dad's in on the job, and he used to love pulling the mesh, so he's got his bit of Rio with the hooks on it, making sure the mesh is not sitting on the bottom.
Yep.
And then, of course, on the barrow there, I reckon that's Kim Hooper.
Yep, in his AFL shorts.
Yeah, that's the one. I've moved on to the ruggers, mate.
You're on the ruggers, yeah.
And then you can only just see the guy bending over. That's George McAllister. He was one of Dad's leading hands, and he was the main concrete. He was a plumber, but he was a very good concreter as well. And the only downside was there was no access. So we had to barrow the whole lot in.
They better not be mucking up your lawn.
I think I was looking there that Georgie Mack had parked on my lawn. I thought that's a bit unusual. I don't know how we got away with that. But you can see the lawns were already starting to happen.
Yep.
And then I threw that up. Lee's given me a hand there to do a bit of timber work. But by the look of it, I must have got someone in to do the plaster because they don't look like, none of those look like me.
Are you saying that's a little bit neater than some of your work?
Exactly.
Okay,
yeah.
Fair enough.
I can do it, but I don't know about that. So we got the new shed happening, and it's July again.
Must be time for a conference.
Time for a conference. We're off. So dropped the kids off at the in-laws, and no, we didn't this year actually.
No.
So World Expo was on, and Dad was pretty keen to maybe get up there and have a look. So
it's the Gold Coast, isn't it?
Gold Coast. So we got we're staying at Conrad's, the casino, because the flag would do a deal, you know, because we've got 400 people to house and we need to rent all these conference things, and the rooms were pretty good price and all that sort of stuff. So we stayed there, and Mum and Dad looked after the kids at night so we could go out and go to the meetings and all. And they're looking pretty chuffed there.
Well, he was on a junket. Of course he's chuffed. Of course he's chuffed.
Yeah, there's a good photo of him.
Yeah.
And then the kids come along, and Mum and Grandma and Grandpa looked after the kids. And that was, the expo was really cool. Yeah, something different. And worked away and didn't get a lot of sleep, a lot of work, a lot of partying. But we had things to do at home.
And you had room to do it in.
So the shed's up and the car's blown apart. And
even on a homemade rotisserie.
All hands on deck. So I'd read in Street Machine, there was a picture, I reckon it was an XP Falcon, was on one of these frames with the curved thing and all. And I thought, I'm going to make one of those. So I went down the local pipe bender guy and got him to bend me up some pipe and made it up. And it worked okay, but not like a rotisserie.
No,
if you want to, it only goes one way, and you need a couple of blokes to get it up. But yeah, it was better than the log of wood.
You didn't have to repair the dent system.
That's it. And there's young Lee. So a bit of bog going in, and then Gary Dart back on the spray gun. So I'm watching and learning at this stage. And this was our first go at 2-pack. And this was pretty much straight over what we had. We didn't bare metal or anything. It was give her a hard chop and
scuff her up.
Throw a coat of high fill over it and get into it. And we had no end of silicon problems with that car at that time. And I don't have enough time to tell you the story, but it was a lot of work. And we spent a lot of time blocking runs and pits and all, and that Gary on the buff there, getting ourselves ready to head off to the Nationals. So the main change to the car, and the only way I can tell the difference, is on 2 in a photo. On 2, the scoop's painted. So when you look at the car, a photo of it,
we've got a couple of photos.
I look at that, and away we go. So the next family shot there is Hoops, Louis, Heather and I, and the kids, and the new Outback Street Machiners from Broken Hill. So guess who ended up the president of that?
Howard.
So we didn't have a lot of members, and I mean, I was always a member of the Australian Street Machine Federation as an individual, and I started that, trying to get that going. We had about 8 or 9 members for a couple of years, and we just let it fade away. But it was good fun that year, and that's Louis Tirana there, in front of the banner, out on the oval. And then right in the middle there, that cloud of dust, that's me in the red car, trying to win overall again.
You're hoping he didn't have to wash it again, were you? Or?
Mate, it was the nature of the beast. You went there, you drove it hard, you did what you had to do. One year we went there, it rained. That was a whole lot of fun. And speaking of rain, so this is our camp. So what I did was I hired a couple of caravans from the local caravan people and got them dropped off at site. So we camped at the showgrounds where the event was, and but had a little bit of luxury because we had a couple of caravans. But we got all our camping gear, and the car's sitting out in the weather. That's me nursing Louise and Heather getting Lee organised for tea there, and it looks like Louis in the background, I think, cooking on the barbie. And of course Louise's first show.
Yeah.
So off at the Nationals in '88. So I'm going to try and keep this short because I know we're going to run over time tonight, but that shot there was in the hall for presentations, and there's about 300 people on trestles in the hall.
Yep.
And it turned into a food fight. So you just can picture that, can't you?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I got a couple of quick ones here as well now, is that as a hangover from the van days, they were still having all of the events. So the
van
club
games, yes.
The van games, yeah. So this one's like, change the spark plugs, run backwards and forwards.
Yep.
And we used to love getting into that, and we used to do pretty well at it, but more often than not we had to rope a few more rings. We didn't have enough people because there was only a handful of us.
Yep.
But yeah, we had a lot of fun, as you can see in the photo there. And it was a good event, and they used to run the driving events as well.
Yep.
And that's tyre smoke, mate.
Yes, it
Not
is.
a lot of it, but there's some there.
No.
Yeah. And obviously always put on a good show out on the oval. And then this shot's just like a bit of a wind-up from that one. When we finished, we always tried to get back to Wagga because we were like 14 hours away from Canberra. So we used to go drive back to Wagga, and we booked a motel there, and I shouted Louis and Joe a feed in the nice restaurant there to celebrate our first Australian title, which is somewhere.
We do have...
This one.
Yeah.
This one. No, that's entrance choice. So we got entrance choice, and
the other big one.
We've gone up another level now.
Yeah.
So we've gone up to the big fella. So top street machine judged.
Yep.
Didn't drive good enough, obviously. So we've got judged, and we've also got entrance. So we're pretty chuffed with that. And headed back home with the trophies with the kids out the front. Stuck it back in the shed. But before you do, you got to call in to mum and dad.
Yeah.
And
show off
the
shiny stuff.
And I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of my drive came from my dad because he was very picky. Very, very good eye for detail, which is obviously where I got it from. So my aim, if Dad came over and couldn't find anything wrong, I was going all right.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, so you dropped in there and dropped them off. So we've been to the Nationals, so we then start doing a few other shows. So this is the Adelaide Hot Rod Show. And at the Hot Rod shows, they used to have really good prize money for best individual display.
Right.
So that was about putting on a show so that when people came to the show, they got to see something a bit more than just the cars.
Yeah.
So I dreamt this idea up. My mate had a Shell Servo in Broken Hill, and I had a mate that at the Repco, still worked at Repco. So we built all of that, and I borrowed a whole lot of stuff. So it was meant to be Bathurst, pit wall, Dick Johnson, all the Shell gear, and then we made fuel churns and all out of 20 litre drums and spent a bit of time messing around making it. But everywhere I took that display, we won that, and it's a long time ago now, but I'm sure we were winning like $1,000
big dollars
at the show because you put on the best show, and we used to take us about 6 hours to set up. We were first in and last out every show, but yeah, we put on a good show, which is what it was all about. And this is pretty much where the car had got to now, and I know those photos were taken that same weekend. You can see the fuel churns there on the left hand side. So that was just two 20 litre drums. Went down to the plumbing shop and wound the top up. It's got a stubby holder on the top, painted silver with the... So,
as you do,
yeah, just copy what you're saying, and that's us having a bit of a pub meal, me and Gaz and Gary's family and young Lee there. So the next one is back to the Riverland.
Yep.
And I put these in. I mean, we did a lot of shows, but I put this one in because I love this photo.
Yeah.
So that's the kids got their t-shirts and hanging out.
Dynamic duo, or the dastardly double.
That's it.
How you look at it.
So they were good shows down the Riverland.
Yep.
And then back to the Summer Nats. So a bit of timberware there as well.
Yes.
So entrance choice again. Top 10, I think an engine bay and engineered, a couple of other bits and pieces. So we're starting to really move up the ranks now. And this is still back when there was no elite. It was all in the same. And the show and shine was out on the oval. Presentations were done on the oval.
Yep.
Yeah, good times. And we used to drive it. Take it out.
That's what we built it for.
Do the cruise. Well, yes and no.
To a point.
Trophy hunter, mate. Trophy hunter. But, we weren't shy to take it out and have a bit of a drive around and do a bit. And then this was the first Street Machine shoot.
Okay.
I tell a lie, that's the second Street Machine shoot. Was shot at 86. This is the first one that I remember to take a photo of him shooting it. But we've got a couple of those mags here that, it's got a lot of coverage, and the magazines show the colour really well. Sometimes it looks a bit brown in different lights. So
I don't know if the camera's going to pick that up real well with the...
Probably with the lights.
With the light, we'll see if we can twist it the right way.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
So that was the start of that. And then I become a bit of a magazine junkie then. Every time I went somewhere, you'd rush down to the news agent to see if you got a little bit or maybe a feature or whatever. So, a lot of that going on. And then that shot there, we're making a bit more smoke now, mate. I'm getting a bit better at this.
Well, you're allowed to do a bit more of a static burnout then. So.
Yeah, so this is back at Ilden. So we're 12 months on now, back in Victoria. So this is 89. And I'm having a real go at the overall grand champion. And we're out, look at that for a photo. So this is the cruise day in town, and the place used to get taken over. It was only a small town. And comes to mind, actually, the pub on the left there. The boys all went in there and decided that they'd clean out each brand. So whatever they were drinking, they drank all of that. And then they drank all of the next brand and all of the next brand. And it used to be some good times. But you can see there's another Holden in the street there, mate. Yeah, so we'd be out cruising around, and then that's it on display. And I put through that in because that's got the later door trims. I haven't got too many photos of those, so we took the aluminium off and put those on. And I'm trying to think of the trimmer's name. God, I'm terrible with names. Drives me nuts. And of course, that's pretty much the end. So we're 89 now, and we've gone through the whole cycle. We've got 2 kids. A new shed, we've rebuilt the car, and we're starting to really do really well. And I've told this story to a lot of people, but not publicly. One of the main reasons that the car got rebuilt again was that after we'd done really well at the Summer Nats, we went back to Adelaide to the Hot Rod Show, and a certain Holden down there beat us again. And at presentation night, that particular person's wife reminded me of that.
There's nothing like a little bit of a friendly competition, a bit of a nudge to spur you on.
I'll leave that to people to work out. They can think who that is. But that gave me enough drive to go home and rip it all apart again and have another go. And you know the disappointing part?
What's that, Howard?
When we went back the next time, he wasn't there.
He heard you were coming, that's why.
So that's a story for this one that a lot of people haven't heard before. And as everybody knows, that car then became Rock 3. So we've gone Rock Solid 2, natural progression of Rock 3, and lots of changes though. Change of colour, change of trim, big changes in a very short period of time. And we'll obviously get into that next time. But what I don't think I covered it at the start. The fact that I've got so much to tell, I've made the decision that I'm going to do a separate episode. Once we finish the bio, we're going to do a separate episode on each car of the building of the car. So the first one I don't have a lot of photos, but the second one I have more. So I'll do those 2 as one. This particular build I've got a lot of photos. There's a huge amount of magazine coverage and stuff, so we can talk about all of that. And then we'll go on to the Fairlane and the others and do those. But I'll get the bio out the way first.
Because there's so much more to Howard than just Howard the car builder, because it's really a side gig at the moment with all the work establishing your family and your house.
And it always was. I mean, with the business and all of the things I did on the community organisations, and I mean, I was able to do a lot of that during the day, but most of those meetings were at night. And then there was the travel attached to it, and then the travel with work through Flag. I guess I was fortunate that I am genuinely ADHD, and I don't know the meaning of I don't have time. A little bit like right now.
And you don't slow down.
And I don't slow down. So that's the plan. So for those people that have watched this and maybe a little bit disappointed that they didn't get everything they wanted, you will get it later on.
Stay tuned. It's coming.
Thank you for joining us. I'm not sure how long we've gone for tonight, but I've enjoyed the process, Dale.
No, it's good fun.
We're getting a bit more casual at it. So thanks for joining us. Don't forget, subscribe.
And like.
And comment. And I will get back to you. because that keeps us going. This is my own little project, so there's no ads from me or no plugs for whatever.
Yep.
I hope you all like Dale's new t-shirt.
Yes, I love it.
And mine. And I know there'll probably be a few comments. Yes, I will get to some stage to be able to make some shirts for people with the old cars on it. So thanks for joining us.
Yep.
Thanks again, Dale.
Thanks, Howard.
No worries. All good.